FPL is great when you can afford Haaland, Bruno, Gabriel, Palmer, Saka, whoever you want. But in order to have them in your team, you've got to find the best budget players. And that's what we're going to discuss in this video. We're going to go through all of goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, and forwards. And we're going to discuss some of the best cheap players in the game for you to be filling your squads with so you can afford the exciting players that you really want to own. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, drop a like if you enjoy and subscribe if you are new around here as well. And we're going through the budget players and we're going to start off in goal. Now, normally every season we get a 4 million goalkeeper, and at time of recording 2 weeks before the start of the season, we don't really have a 4 million goalkeeper. Now, there are a couple that people are looking at for a couple of different reasons. The first one is Palmer of Ipswich. He started 3 out of 4 games for Ipswich during pre-season, but I hate to be the bearer of bad news. They have signed 2 other goalkeepers during this transfer window, both priced at 4.5, who are both expected to be ready for the start of the season, who will both start ahead of Palmer. Now, if you want to have him, there is a small chance he plays in game week 1, but I wouldn't put that percentage chance at anything higher than maybe 15-20% at a maximum. He does have Sunderland at home, so if we did get to game week 1 and Palmer was going to start for whatever reason, although I think it's very unlikely, it would suddenly make the bench boost in game week 1 with a 4 million goalkeeper at home to Sunderland look pretty appealing, but I don't think that's going to happen. The other one that people are looking at is Dubravka of Spurs now. He is, of course, a very high point scoring goalkeeper from last year, so some people are looking at that thinking, yes, I'll just pick him again. However, he is not going to be starting as he's joined Spurs, where they have both Kinski and Vicario. Now, Vicario is set to leave Spurs, and even if he does stay, Kinski is going to be the #1 goalkeeper. We've heard that from De Zerbi. So we have no real issue about Kinski, but Dubravka is either going to be the #2 or #3 option. Now, there is a benefit to going with someone like a Dubravka if you're going with Kinski, because having the first choice and second choice goalkeeper from the same club means that if your first choice goalkeeper gets injured, at least you're left with the second choice to fill in and be a playing goalkeeper. However, if you pick a first choice Kinski from Spurs and then get a 4 million goalkeeper from another club, if Kinski was to miss out, you're then left with no goalkeepers. That's why lots of people pair a 4.5 starting goalkeeper with their 4 million equivalent backup in the likes of Kinski or Dubravka. For the start of the season, for me, Kinski is the best goalkeeper that you should be looking to own. The overall run of fixtures that I think Spurs have, they've really strengthened defensively with the likes of Senesi, with the likes of Van Heck, and I think their defensive performances in pre-season have looked pretty strong. So here's my favourite of them. And if you're not playing the bench boost early on, you could look to rotate them, but I would probably just opt to go with Kinski and Dubravka if you're not spending the money on David Raya. If you are looking to pair Kinski with someone else, he rotates pretty well with Verbruggen, but it might also depend on what week you're looking to play your bench boost. And that is probably the most important thing when you're looking at an early bench boost and the goalkeepers you're looking to pick. So the other goalkeepers that I've got that I would look at, Verbruggen is very good in game week 1. He's got Aston Villa at home, whereas a lot of the other cheap goalkeepers, Leno plays Chelsea, Rushworth plays Arsenal, and Petrovic plays Manchester City. However, in game week 2, Petrovic plays Everton at home and Rushworth plays Hull at home. So for me, Kinski is the best 4.5. If you want to pair that with Dubravka or potentially Palmer, if he might start the season, that's fine. If not, Verbruggen, Petrovic, Rushworth really depends on what you're doing with your bench boost. And your bench boost strategy is also what should probably dictate which 4 million defender you're looking to pick. So if you are bench boosting in game week 1, you should probably go with an Ipswich defender at home to Sunderland. If you're bench boosting in game week 2, I would go with a Coventry defender at home to Hull. If you're not bench boosting early, then I would still probably opt for a Coventry defender because I expect them to be a better team this season than Ipswich. I also think that their medium to long-term fixtures are probably better. Apart from Arsenal and Manchester City in 2 of the first 3, outside of that, I quite like the Coventry fixtures. So they are #1 unless you are looking to play your bench boost in game week 1, where Ipswich becomes slightly more important. Outside of these 2 teams, I wouldn't be recommending going for a Hull defender. I don't expect them to perform well early on in the season. Trying to predict their lineup is also very difficult as they are still heavily in the market looking to buy a whole host of different players in a whole host of different positions. So I would not be looking to buy a Hull defender. And outside of the 3 newly promoted teams, we don't have any 4 million defender that we think is going to start in game week 1. Now, when you're picking which defender you should likely buy from these teams, so we start at Coventry. Kitching was the player who played in the Championship. However, they have signed a Mender. I would avoid both of these as a result of that. Kitching might be given the start of the season. We think it will likely be the new signing Amenda who comes in and Kitching will drop to the bench. But as a result, I would probably avoid both and go for Thomas or Van Uyck, who are the more nailed and probably better picks in isolation. Thomas is great for DEFCON and his attacking threat is not bad. Van Uyck is probably slightly more attacking, but his DEFCON is much worse. As a result, I do think Thomas is the best 4 million defender to own. I think he's better than Van Uyck, and if I was just to own one, regardless of the bench boost, I would be looking at Thomas. Now, when you move into Ipswich, they could play a back three, in which case Diop, O'Shea, and Greaves will all play. The chances are they will play a back two, in which case one of them drops out. That is very likely to be Greaves, but it is not 100% guarantee that Diop will definitely go in at the start of the season. Again, given that O'Shea and Greaves were the two centre-backs that played in order to get them promoted to the Premier League. As a result, O'Shea is the one that fits in both scenarios. So if you need a centre-back who's good for DEFCON, I would go with O'Shea over both of Greaves and over Diop. And if you want attacking threat, just like Van Uyck of Coventry, that's Leif Davis of Ipswich, but I don't think either of them have enough attacking threat, so I would go with the DEFCON options in Thomas or O'Shea. Then moving into the 4.5 million defenders, and I've actually ranked these in order of preference. Number 10 is going to be Ezri Konsa, currently of Aston Villa. Now, the reason he's in at number 10 is I think there's a chance he joins Arsenal before the end of the transfer window, but that doesn't bode particularly well because he's late coming back from the World Cup and Arsenal have lots of options in that centre-back position. So we don't know if A, he'll be available for the start of the season, B, what club he'll be at, and C, if he does sign for Arsenal, will he go straight in? Now, if he stays at Aston Villa and we get confirmation of that before the start of the season, he's a pretty nailed defender, nice and cheap, and their opening fixtures are not bad. In at number 9, I'm going with Robinson of Fulham. His attacking threat is not bad. There was a slight chance he's on penalties, but with their signings they've made already during the summer, that looks almost no chance that that will happen. His DEFCON numbers are okay. Fixtures over the long term are not bad. The opening few are not the best. So I don't mind him as a long-term pick. If he was on penalties, he'd be a great pick, but it doesn't look like he will be. Number 8 is going to be Ola and Nottingham Forest. Now, he is playing wing back, but he's not the most attacking. Williams, 5 million on the other side, is the sort of attacking Munoz fullback that Glasner has seen in the past. And Ola is more forming that Mitchell, less attacking option on the left-hand side. But it does look like he should start the season. They are potentially linked with other players who can play that position, but we're close enough to game week 1 now. We should expect Ola to start. He's nice and cheap at 4.5, and they play Leeds at home in game week 1. Number 7 is going to be Mikalenko. I think he's being a little bit forgotten because last year we looked to own all of the Everton centre-backs in the likes of Tarkowski, Branthwaite, Keane and O'Brien, but they've all been priced a lot more high, particularly Tarkowski up at 6 million. So a 4.5 million Everton defender in the likes of Mikalenko, who combines a small bit of attacking threat, DEFCON every 1 in 5 games, I don't think should be forgotten, maybe like he was last year when Tarkowski and Michael Keane were cheaper options. Number 6 is Kadioglu of Brighton. Again, there are lots of good Brighton centre-backs you could have a look at in the likes of Vuskovic, who's maybe better for DEFCON, but we don't know he's definitely going to start the season, and he's 5 million. Kadioglu started a lot of games at fullback. I think he had a pretty good season, and I expect him to do good things once again, but you are relying on attacking threat as his DEFCON numbers are pretty low. Into the top 5. Number 5 is Mitchell, nailed for Crystal Palace, playing left wing back, some attacking threat, some DEFCON appeal. It's just a new manager, no Mark Gay and no Lacroix, so I don't expect them to be quite as good defensively. Number 4 is a very short-term pick, but that is Hume of Sunderland. He is 4.5 million, and at the end of last season and during pre-season, he has started right wing. I can already see the Sunderland fans in the chat saying, Harry, don't do it. We're linked to sign a new right winger, and they have been for quite a number of weeks, but it hasn't happened yet. In the first couple of weeks, they have Ipswich away and Fulham at home. And if you're looking to bench boost in one of those and potentially play the wild card early, I think he could be a really interesting differential for the start of the season. A defender at 4.5, playing right wing. Number 3 is Rodon. Now, he's not 100% nailed because if Leeds do play a back four, Miremovic and Jakob Biol could be the two centre-backs with Joe Rodon falling out of it. However, Biol has not played many minutes during pre-season, and I expect them to play a back 5, in which case Rodon will be a pretty good pick at 4.5 like he was last year. Nice opening fixtures and a DEFCON in just under 1 in 3 matches. Number 2 for the opening few games is going to be Luke Shaw. It doesn't sound like those interests from Manchester United around Lewis Hall are particularly great, so you should be fine for the opening run of games. He played a lot of minutes last year. I expect him to do the same again this year. Long term, the fixtures get a bit more difficult, and he doesn't add any DEFCON or attacking threat that much on top of the clean sheets. And actually, my number 1 option is Ajer of Brentford. Now, there are a couple of more difficult fixtures in the opening 5, but I expect it to be good for DEFCON. The best, actually, of all the defenders we've got on this list with 33%. His attacking threat in the air is not bad. And whilst Vandenberg is out injured for the next month or so, he should be starting all of the games up until the international break. So I really like him short term as a 4.5 nailed option and good for DEFCON. Next up, we're moving into midfield and starting off at the 4.5 million midfielders. And to be honest, there aren't very many of them. Number 1 is Hughes of Crystal Palace. He won't be a starter unless Wharton is out. And Wharton has been pictured in a protective boot over the duration of pre-season. He has been with the Crystal Palace squad, but has not featured at all. So we might get the first couple of games with Hughes being a starter for Crystal Palace, but I wouldn't expect very much from him. Last year, he didn't hit DEFCON a single time, even in the games he started. 0 goals and just 1 assist. And even when he does start, he's likely to only play 60 or 70 minutes. So although he might get minutes early on, I don't expect very much from him. If I was picking a 4.5 million midfielder now, it would be one of the 2 Hull midfielders in either Slater or Crooks. There is a small chance that they might both start at the beginning of the season. However, they have signed Morita, expected to start at 5 million as one of their 2 central midfielders, alongside most likely Slater. Slater is the one that I would pick. His DEFCON numbers are better, although Crooks had slightly better goal output. Keep an eye on preseason, but if I had to pick a 4.5 at the moment, it would be Slater. And the final one that lots of you are asking about is Yates of Nottingham Forest. He is not going to be a starter for them, so please take him out of your team if you've got him. He will be an impact sub. He will feature for them, but only off the bench. He played minutes towards the end of last season because there were injuries and because they were in Europe. However, with the change of system, they only need 2 midfielders now, which is going to be Dominguez and Sangare. And they've also signed Schlager, who can take in that position whilst Yates still sits on the bench. So I would not be going with Yates. I probably wouldn't be going with Hughes. If I needed one, it would be Slater. But to be honest, I would find the 0.5 million to upgrade one of these to a 5 million midfielder at a very minimum. Now, in terms of my top options there, number 1, Norgard, move to Everton, is the best option if we think he's going to start in game week 1. If James Garner is still out after he's had surgery a couple of weeks ago, then Norgard looks like a great option. His data is from 2 years ago. Of course, last year he was at Arsenal and hardly featured, so we don't have much data there. But when he was at Brentford, he hit DEFCON in 50% of matches, which is crazy high. And his expected goal involvement was 1 every 5 games, 0.18 per 90, which is a great return. If he is going to be starting for Everton, he is the best 5 million option to go with. If you need alternatives, Sangare of Nottingham Forest is not bad for DEFCON, 32%. His attacking returns are okay. If you want a more explosive, exciting pick, then Gomez of Brighton, again, 5 million, Aston Villa at home, is expected to start the season out on the right wing, and that's what we've seen in pre-season. And if you want an attacking option, he is the best out of all the options we've got here. His attacking data is pretty much miles ahead of every other single player we've got. A few others to consider is Yarmouk at Brentford, Kamara of Aston Villa, or Santos at Man United. But to be honest, it's Norgard if he's going to play game week 1. If not, it's Sangare if you want DEFCON, and it's Gomez if you want attacking threat. Now, when you start to add in those 5.5 million midfielders as well, number 1 is Pascal Gross. He's on set pieces, he's on penalties. Now, his DEFCON appeal is actually a lot less than I think people expect. He only hit it about once in 10 starts last year, so don't expect much DEFCON from him. But when you add in penalties now that Welbeck's gone and you add in set pieces, I just think he is the best 5.5 million. If you are looking elsewhere or you need an alternative or a double up for whatever reason, Sangare, the new signing at Brentford, was fantastic for DEFCON before he joined Brentford. Now, of course, that data is not from the Premier League, so it's not completely transferable, but his attacking data is not bad and he is great for DEFCON. He is likely to be this year's Elliot Anderson. If it's not Sangare, he's going to be this year's Elliot Anderson. It's likely to be Ampadu of Leeds, who hit DEFCON in 54% of matches last year. Now, his attacking data is slightly worse than Sangare, but of course, he was in the Premier League last year, so it is more transferable over to this season, whereas Sangare, you are guessing a little bit. Is his fitness there? Can he play 90? Is his DEFCON going to be as good? Is he going to score as many goals as maybe he did last year? Ampadu feels slightly safer, but Sangare probably feels like the more explosive and better pick if they both do what they did last year. Outside of that, I think the 5 million options are still better than the rest of the 5.5. So in that case, you've got Norgard and you've got Sangare. The only other one I'd consider is Caicedo at Chelsea. Again, Hull at home in game week 4. You just get a bit more coverage of that game, although Caicedo's attacking threat is not that reliable. Hit DEFCON in almost 40% of matches, and he started last year pretty well, if you remember, in terms of goal scoring and assisting. And then finally, we are going up front. First of all, there are no 4.5 million forwards who are going to get any minutes at the start of the season. So if you are picking one, they are absolutely a dead spot. And to be honest, I would pick one that is red flagged, because if a forward or any player is red flagged because they've left the Premier League, they've signed for someone else, they won't drop in price. So you don't need to worry about that. If for whatever reason you need a 5 million forward, again, I don't think any of those will start. Sims at Coventry is the one who's likely to get the most minutes at 5 million, but I would find the 0.5 to upgrade him to one of the other forwards that you've got on this list. In at number 5, I've got Emerson, the new signing to Ipswich. Some of the opening fixtures are pretty difficult. Again, a new signing to the Premier League, a new signing to Ipswich. We don't quite know what to expect, but the data was not bad and placed Sunderland at home in game week 1. Number 4 is Muniz, who did look like a good pick until, unfortunately, Fulham have signed another striker to compete with him. Now, whether that new striker will be available for the start of the season, we don't quite know. But when you also combine that with the Fulham fixtures now, I probably would be put off. Number 3 is McBurney, a great goal-scoring record in the Championship, and Hull, not good defensively. They will have to score goals. He plays 90 minutes, and he's on penalties, 5.5. If you're bench boosting in game week 2, he is one to consider. However, the number 1 option is probably who I'd go with. Number 2, probably more reliable in terms of Premier League proven, is Beto of Everton. Now, the issue with him, as we all know, is they rotate. Beto and Barry will play 19, 20 games each every single season. I do expect Beto to be number 1, the first choice going into the start of the season. And when they're only playing once a week, I think that should be pretty reliable. And I quite like their opening fixtures. My actual number 1 pick, though, if you're looking for them, is Wright of Coventry. 5.5 million, had a great season in the Championship. Arsenal and City in the opening 3 is not great, but I think he will be the best out of all of these forwards, because I'm not certain enough on Beto's minutes, and I don't think Hull will perform that well. It puts me off McBurney. So that is all the cheap players. Defenders, midfielders, forwards. It might not be the most exciting pool of players, but you will know, and I know, that when I'm building my drafts, some of these players and getting them right and not being forced to make transfers between them can have a massive impact on your season. So if there's players in here that are of interest, or maybe someone that I've forgotten, let me know in the comment section down below. I will have a look at them. And next week, we are going to do best defenders, midfielders, and forwards. So if there's players that I've forgotten or something you disagree with in this video, I will have an opportunity next week to discuss that once again. But we're going to wrap it up there. Any questions or comments, let me know. Thank you all for watching. Drop a like if you've enjoyed, subscribe if you are new, and I'll be back again very soon.